And to be quite honest with you, I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted with Sue Bird.
The Caitlyn Clark fairy tale is officially over. It ended in a fiery on-air clash when WNBA legend Sue Bird publicly attacked Stephen A. Smith for daring to point out a devastating truth: the second Caitlyn Clark was out of the playoffs. The league's viewership completely collapsed. But this wasn't just a simple argument, it was a moment that blew the lid off the WNBA's darkest secret, a calculated cover-up to hide plummeting ticket sales, a bitter jealousy simmering among veteran players, and a league now forced to manufacture a lie to save itself from total embarrassment.
This is what we want. Instead, we're still getting bullshit on viewership.
The moment the dam broke occurred during a heated debate on ESPN, pitting one of the league's most revered legends against one of sports media's most powerful voices. On one side was Sue Bird, a WNBA icon, a champion whose opinion carries immense weight. On the other was Stephen A. Smith, a commentator known for his unfiltered, often brutal honesty. The topic was the WNBA playoffs, but the massive, undeniable elephant in the room was Caitlyn Clark, whose team had already been eliminated. Stephen A. did what he is paid millions to do. He pointed to the cold, hard facts. He laid out the stark reality that with Clark no longer playing, the viewership numbers were in a freefall.
What do you mean ESPN? So because I work at my day job on ESPN, I'm supposed to ignore the fact?
He wasn't inventing a narrative. He was reading the data. But for Sue Bird, this factual observation was a personal attack, an act of betrayal. She fired back, her frustration palpable, accusing Smith of hating on the very product his network was supposed to be promoting. Her argument was that as a media partner, his job was to uplift the league, not expose its weaknesses. Stephen A., however, refused to be silenced. He countered with a question that cut to the heart of the matter. Was he supposed to ignore reality, to lie to his audience, simply because he worked for ESPN? The on-air tension was electric. A league ambassador was publicly demanding a powerful media figure abandon journalistic integrity in favor of positive PR. It was a shocking moment that revealed the deep insecurity plaguing the WNBA establishment. They didn't want the truth. They wanted a flawless image, even if that image was a lie.
Stephen A. Smith talk about it. I've seen Shannon Sharp talk about it. And that's what I just don't understand is they work for ESPN. So why are you hating on a product that ESPN
that they invest in?
Yeah, that's where these viewership numbers are coming. Yeah, it's a business you're in. It's not that they can't. And by the way, it's not that they can't be critical of certain things. They can have their opinions. But that's where I don't understand
The reality Stephen A. Smith was pointing to wasn't just an opinion, it was a statistical avalanche that couldn't be ignored. The Caitlyn Clark effect was a quantifiable phenomenon. Her regular season games were averaging nearly 1.6 million viewers, a staggering 240% increase from the previous year. For context, some of her games were drawing more viewers than primetime MLB and NHL matchups. Arenas across the country were selling out months in advance, not just in her home city, but on the road. Teams that typically struggled to fill half their seats were suddenly seeing packed houses, with fans paying premium prices just to catch a glimpse of the rookie phenom. The Indiana Fever, Clark's team, saw their attendance jump by over 13,000 fans per game. Then, her team was knocked out of the playoffs, and the bottom completely fell out.
See tickets at the Target Center in Minnesota selling for as low as $10.
The viewership numbers didn't just dip, they collapsed by nearly 70%. Games featuring the league's top teams and biggest established stars were suddenly struggling to pull in a third of the audience Clark commanded. But the most damning evidence of all came from the ticket market. For a WNBA Finals game, the league's premier event, tickets on resale markets were available for as little as $9. For a playoff game in Minnesota, they were being sold for $10. This wasn't just a price drop, it was a desperate fire sale. The very same league that had seen tickets for Clark's games command hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars, was now practically giving away seats to its championship series. It was a shocking, undeniable admission of a devastating truth. The massive, high-paying, engaged audience wasn't there for the WNBA. They were there for Caitlyn Clark. And when she left, they left with her.
Shannon Sharp starts to talk about the attendance and says, like, basically that Caitlyn had the highest attendance in the playoffs, which Caitlyn Clark played
kind of-
her first 2 rounds in Connecticut, which only holds roughly 10,000, and they got swept, so they never made it back to Cambridge in Indiana to play a home game. So they absolutely did not have the highest.
The explosive confrontation between Sue Bird and Stephen A. Smith wasn't an isolated incident. It was the culmination of a hostile tension that had been building all season long, a pattern of resistance from some of the league's most established veterans. It began before Clark even played a single professional game. Diana Taurasi, a player widely considered the WNBA's GOAT, delivered a chilling public warning. Reality is coming. While framed as sage advice for a rookie, it was perceived by many as a threat, a promise that the professional ranks would humble the college star. The sentiment was clear. The hype means nothing here. Soon after, another legend, Cheryl Swoops, publicly questioned Clark's college accomplishments with factually incorrect statements, attempting to diminish the very records that had made her a household name.
Attention.
There is a Caitlyn Clark effect on all of basketball, and especially on women's basketball ratings. Kudos to her. She has elevated an entire sport in view.
Once the season began, the resistance moved from words to actions. Clark was subjected to a level of physical aggression that felt personal. The infamous flagrant foul by Chennedy Carter, a blatant shoulder check away from the ball, became a national talking point. It wasn't just a hard foul, it was a message. This collection of incidents painted a disturbing picture of a league whose old guard seemed determined to gatekeep its own success. Instead of rolling out the red carpet for the star who was bringing them unprecedented wealth and attention, they seemed intent on reminding her of her place. It felt less like a welcome and more like a hazing, driven by a deep-seated resentment of her instant stardom.
Stephen A. and with Shannon, there's an aspect of them like defending their stances on her. Like, we were right about Caitlyn and this is our defense. And I still think there's something twisted there because nobody ever said that Caitlyn wasn't going to be a marketing gem.
Faced with this catastrophic drop in interest, the WNBA's front office went into full-blown crisis mode. Their worst nightmare was unfolding. The league's most important games, the playoff and finals matchups broadcast on national television, were facing the prospect of being played in front of embarrassingly empty arenas. Such a visual would be a public relations disaster, confirming the narrative that the league couldn't sustain itself without its rookie savior. It would damage the brand, scare off potential sponsors, and undermine their broadcast negotiations. So, they devised a calculated and deceptive strategy to manufacture an illusion of success. By slashing ticket prices to bargain basement levels, they could incentivize people, any people, to fill the seats and make the arenas appear full for the television cameras.
You guys take a look at the stands. All the seats, even the courtside seats, are empty.
Been to the Liberty games. They're full. It looks full in Vegas. It looks full every single place that you go. TD Garden sold out when Caitlyn wasn't playing there for a regular.
It was a classic case of prioritizing optics over reality. The commentators could then speak of the incredible atmosphere and the passionate fan base, while the league promoted images of a thriving product. But it was a carefully constructed facade. The league wasn't celebrating success. It was hiding a failure. This desperate move to avoid embarrassment revealed a profound weakness. Instead of addressing the underlying problem that their product was not compelling enough to retain the new audience Clark had brought in, they chose to hide it. It was a short-term fix that concealed a long-term existential crisis. The WNBA brand, on its own, was not the draw it desperately wanted to be.
Nonsense about things that Caitlyn was doing wrong when, in my personal opinion, she was doing nothing but going out there and playing great basketball every night and ignoring the hate that was coming to her from all sides, not only from...
Beneath the surface of the on-court rivalries and media debates lay a far more sensitive and unspoken controversy. Caitlyn Clark's arrival did more than just disrupt the league's competitive balance. It disrupted its cultural and social dynamics. For decades, the WNBA has been a league predominantly led by black athletes who have been at the forefront of social justice advocacy and have fought tirelessly for every bit of recognition they received. Then, in walks Caitlyn Clark, a white player from Iowa, who through a combination of incredible skill and massive media amplification, achieved a level of fame and commercial success in a few short months that had eluded almost every other player for their entire careers. This created a complex and uncomfortable dynamic.
Caitlyn Clark come into the WNBA and do what she's doing right now.
immediately? Absolutely.
To many, the disproportionate media attention she received felt like a reflection of societal biases, where a white star was more easily marketed to a mainstream audience. This undercurrent of tension fueled some of the resentment. The issue wasn't Clark herself, but what her instantaneous elevation represented to players who had long felt overlooked and undervalued, despite their own immense talents. This unspoken element is crucial to understanding the full story. The conflict wasn't just about professional jealousy, it was tangled up in complex issues of race, representation, and the persistent struggle for equitable recognition in women's sports. Clark became a symbol of a system that many players felt had never fully valued them, making her an easy, albeit unfair, target for years of pent-up frustration.
People stick around and want to watch the others. A rising tide lifts all boats, which is what we were saying, both Shannon Sharpe and myself, when we addressed that issue. Why would you say a quote like that? We work for ESPN, so I'm supposed to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to the facts? That ain't.
This brings the entire saga back to Sue Bird and the central, uncomfortable question hanging over her actions. Is she a principled defender of the league, or a legend caught in a moment of profound hypocrisy? It wasn't long ago that Bird herself was one of the loudest cheerleaders for Caitlyn Clark. In numerous interviews before Clark's debut, Bird praised her generational talent and celebrated the eyes she was bringing to the sport. She understood and publicly acknowledged that Clark's star power was a gift to the entire WNBA, a rising tide that would lift all boats. So why the sudden, aggressive change of heart? Why the public attack on a media personality for simply stating a fact she herself once implicitly acknowledged? The most generous interpretation is that Bird fears the WNBA is building its future on an unstable foundation.
You're going to see WNBA playoff viewership down now that Caitlyn is out. And is that somewhat factually accurate? Yes. It's not accurate. Viewership numbers with Caitlyn Clark are astronomical. She is a big draw.
Yeah.
She brings in all the things.
She wants the league to be seen as a collection of stars, not a one-woman show, believing that long-term health depends on the strength of the brand, not the popularity of an individual. However, a more critical analysis suggests a deep-seated insecurity. It appears to be a defensive reaction from a member of the old guard, watching the league they painstakingly built become completely and utterly dependent on a 22-year-old rookie. By attacking the narrative of decline, Bird isn't just defending the league, she's defending her own legacy and the value of the era she represents. It's a desperate attempt to reclaim control, to insist that the house she helped build is strong on its own, even as the evidence overwhelmingly suggests otherwise.
And to imply that we should just ignore the impact that Caitlyn Clark had on this team, this league, this sport. Nah, it doesn't work that way.
In the end, Caitlyn Clark's arrival was the ultimate paradox. She was a blessing that felt like a curse, a solution that created a whole new set of problems. She handed the WNBA the mainstream relevance and financial windfall it had been chasing for over 25 years, but that blindingly bright spotlight also illuminated the league's darkest corners, exposing deep-seated insecurities, professional jealousies, and complex cultural fractures that had been festering just beneath the surface. The conflict is no longer just about basketball, it's about the soul of the league itself. It's a battle between the old guard and the new wave, between protecting a legacy and embracing a revolution. This leaves the WNBA at a monumental crossroads, facing a question that will define its future. Will the league and its veterans finally unite and embrace the generational opportunity that stands before them, capitalizing on this unprecedented wave of interest? Or will the internal resistance, the fear of change, and the refusal to accept a new reality ultimately lead them to sabotage the greatest gift the sport has ever received?